That was perfect.
Great. So here we are. It's the Bigfoot Collectors Club listener files. This is where we read your emails.
Yes, the long-awaited listener files episode we've been talking so much about.
Thank you so much, everybody who wrote in. This one is from Lucas, Pennsylvania. I mean, it's from Lucas in Pennsylvania. Hey, BCC. I encountered something paranormal 3 weeks before I turned 4. I think my age and therefore active imagination is a factor in being able to believe, not as a reason to have seen something that wasn't to be believed. Okay, fair enough. I said that, not him. I was in a plane flying to see relatives in California. We were a little ways into our descent beneath the clouds. I can make out streets and fields below. And it was only this unique perspective, being at the right altitude at the right time, that allowed me to witness it. I saw, from my bird's eye view, a lake, and slithering through it, a slender black serpent. God knows I would be terrible at judging how large the creature must have been, but at least the length of a football field. It seemed the lake was clear and it was moving maybe a ways beneath the surface. Its movement is what I remember most. It didn't move like a tube or a pipe or anything else man-made. It had a lithe reptilian agility as it snaked back and forth like a worm twisting through the dirt. I watched it, and then our plane passed it by. I remember a few days later drawing a picture of it on a piece of printer paper in one of my relatives' houses. Undoubtedly a cruel sketch, but a picture all the same. I desperately wish I still had this, but having the memory even after all these years is pretty good enough. Keep searching, Lucas. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, just thinking that you go home and you want to draw it, and you always talk about how much you love like people's drawn renditions of what they saw. Those are some of the best accounts and testimony, I think, too.
I love a good lake monster.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, obviously she was Lucas, a guy, right?
Yeah.
Yes, obviously he was affected.
George Lucas, I think.
Right. I don't know why I imagined it as a girl. But...
Bryce and Michael. I saw
That's my George. That's pretty good.
Actually, the Sith.
No.
I remember Dave. You don't remember this, but a couple years ago, Dave said he was driving back from Lawrence, Kansas, or someplace, and he saw a shadow creature shoot out of a lake and fly into the sky.
Yeah, I barely remember this, but you started to remind me of it. I think I was on one of my long road trips, and I was. The sun had just gone down. The sky was purple. Sunset, and there was this lake on my left, and I saw something shoot out of it, and it was like a black streak, and then the pond or the lake was, there was some movement, and then
I always pictured it being like a shadow bird.
That's
what it was. It was weird. It was either a little UFO or a creature of some type,
right.
But it was gone.
I forgot to mention Dave Keith is still with us.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Hey. And also Riley Bray is here. He's going to be commenting as well.
That's right. He's going to tell us one of his stories too.
I had a serpent incident when I was about 5.
I had a serpent episode.
When I was a kid, I saw my cousins were over and we saw a snake. I'd never seen a snake crawl up a wall before on the outside of my house, and it went into like a vent or something in the rooftop. And I told my parents about it. I was like, no, that's not true. You're making that up. You didn't see a snake climb up a wall. Has anyone ever seen a snake climb a wall
Maybe that
before?
snake was bitten by a radioactive spider.
God, who knows?
It was strange. It was real. It wasn't a dream either. So
snakes climb up walls.
I
Absolutely.
saw a video that a snake in like the VC, like hidden the Australian family's VCR on Christmas. They're like,
oh my God,
get it the fuck out! Well, I've got a great story here, and this is actually from one of my best friends. I've known this kid. We went to kindergarten together all the way through high school. He actually came out here with me when I thought I was going to pursue acting. I have been doing it for 20 years. But anyway, his name is Donovan Kaler, one of my best friends. And he wrote in. He had some great stories I want to share with. First of all, shout out to you, Donovan. And thanks for sending these in. He says, I have 2 stories myself, and it kind of happened around 2001. I want to go into The first one, which is really kind of, or maybe I'll do that one next because it's a little sweeter. But he says, my second story happened on my daughter's first day of kindergarten. My wife, youngest daughter, and I just dropped our daughter off, and I was so mad at myself because I only had my iPhone to take pictures, and it was so bright out, a lot of them didn't turn out. So we headed to Target to buy a real camera, and on our way back home, we were driving on a rural side street, no cars at all. And up in the sky, I saw this insanely bright, shiny object. It was a clear day, not a cloud in the sky. The sun was still low, and I could see the sun to the far right of this object. And the thing wasn't moving, so I knew it wasn't a plane, and it was too big to be a plane. You could also see that this thing was extremely high in the sky and reflecting this crazy bright light. And I came to a four-way stop and I was looking up, and I say to my wife, look at that. What is that? And as I'm saying this, the object slowly starts to move up and then rapidly zooms further up and completely disappeared. That which matches so many fighter pilot testimonials when they get close to these things, they just either disappear, turn off, or shoot straight up. I tried to keep the story short. Oh, he goes in to say that, but isn't that crazy? And I'm always looking up in the sky, and I've seen some crazy.
Guys, I'm always
looking up at the sky. But it's like, no, I've seen bright, shiny objects that, like, when I remember taking my kid to the park, and I'm just sitting there watching them. So I'm looking up in the sky, and I see like a white thing, and I'm like, that's fucking weird. Is that a satellite? No, it's not moving. And it starts to like drift along zigzagly, like loafily. I'm like, so weird.
I'm always trying to see
I took
stuff
a couple
like
pictures.
that. I've never seen anything in the day.
Oh man.
There's this cool news story I heard or saw. This is years ago now.
Yeah.
There was like some local weirdo, I can't remember what town this was in, who said he was known as like the man who can summon or the man who talks to UFOs.
Oh yeah.
And he would stand out in like the Home Depot parking lot and chant into the sky
or
gosh. Talk to the sky, and fucking yellow and orange orbs would show up.
I'm going to show you a video
and
of an
this
orange orb
news
right now.
dude was like, who's this local weirdo? And why does he think he can talk to aliens? And it was the coolest because the guy went out and interviewed him. He's like, yep, I talk to UFOs. And he's just kind of this like unassuming dude. And the guy on the report's like getting ready to make fun of him. And they look up and this fucking object is appearing in the clouds. And he's like, you could tell this guy, the reporter was like, dude, I came out here to totally rip this guy to shreds, and it turns out that he actually contacted a UFO,
Wow.
and it's like the greatest thing. And the guy's like, yep, I told you I could do it. He's kind of this like Boo Radley guy.
Man,
it's so.
I want to download this video of an orange orb I took on Halloween night. My whole family saw it. I guess we're up in the canyons. It says download air, but take a look at this picture. The video's even crazier. Look, talk about pulsating light.
Whoa, yeah.
So this thing moved, right? It seemed to like be like loafing around in the sky. As soon as I have video of it too, 2 videos actually. As soon as I got the camera on it, it just kind of took off upwards. And it's very strange. I'll have to post it on Instagram for you guys, but it's my actual own UFO video footage. I've never, never submitted it or anything, or never like made a case about it. But my whole family was there. My son and I, my daughter were watching it, and we're all like, what the fuck is that orange thing? It looked like it was like moving around our neighborhood.
Talk
Very
like
weird.
that for your kids.
Yeah, they hear a lot of shit out of my mouth.
Okay,
I want to do my
another one? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I want to do his little ghost story because it's a nice palate cleanser, as like you said. Or do we want to do that? I'll run into it. Sure.
It's your same.
Why not?
offer.
Here we go. This is from Donovan again. And okay, so he says in 2001, I was visiting a group of friends in San Diego. And a good friend at the time had just moved back to San Diego from Denver. And I visited a few times, and I would sleep on their couch in his living room. And it was his parents, his sister and grandma that lived in the house. Every morning, his grandma would come out, and she would pull the blanket over me. And it was so adorable, smiley emoticon. My friend's family was from Thailand, so his grandma spoke zero English. We never talked, but she was just the sweetest grandma. And in 2001, she passed away. And it was about a month or 2 after, and I was visiting again. But now my friend had moved into her old bedroom and had 2 beds, so I slept in there. But one morning, my friend had to go to work early in the morning, and another friend that lived out there was going to pick me up later, so we just go to the site and see stuff. So my friend left, and I said bye or whatever. I was awake, and I was going to get up after a bit, but as I turned over to just rest a bit more, I could feel the blanket move and start to cover me Exclamation point, exclamation point. I mean, I opened my eyes like a deer in headlights. I thought my mind was messing with me. And then with my eyes open, I felt the blanket move again and pull up more over my shoulder. I was freaking out. And then for some strange reason, it was like his grandma's spirit could sense my fear and was able to get rid of the fear, because at that moment, I remember so vividly this feeling of comfort, knowing it was just his grandma tucking me in. Just an amazing experience, really, he writes. But isn't that sweet? So often these stories can get so scary, but a lot of the times we hear a nicer, more positive light to some of these things.
Don't forget about the ghost Grammys, guys.
The ghost Grammys are out there.
My mom,
so many ghost Grammys.
Yeah,
my mom and her brothers and sisters saw their grandma's ghost in their farmhouse that they grew up in, and none of them talked about it until 10 years later, when they're all just talking around the table about the house and grandma, and they're like, my mom was like, I saw grandma's ghost.
Yeah.
Tuck you in from
that's
across
crazy.
the room, because they all shared the same room back when we were kids. And my aunt and uncle were like, you saw her that night too? And they lived in this very old farmhouse where my grandpa was born, in the farmhouse in Kansas. And when I would sleep over there, the house kind of had a presence to it. Mm-hmm. So there are ghost grandmas out there, everybody.
Validated, verified.
Okay, I believe this next one comes from a listener named Chris. And on the email printout, he or she, I believe it's a she, did not sign it. So, and also, if unless otherwise specified, we're just going to say your first name out there. Hi there, there's a lot to this story, so be warned. Okay, duly noted. All right, the house that I grew up in was the third on its foundation, the first two having burned down. There was evidence of this in the attic, and as some of the blackened timber had been used to rebuild the house. It is said that the man who owned the second house sat in his rocking chair, rocking while it burned. The house itself was unremarkable. My parents bought the house for... Whoa.
That was
Wait
awesome.
a minute. Why is this old man just rocking away as
While
it burns?
it burned. I know, that's
Watch
cool.
it burn around.
Man, this guy is hardcore. My parents bought the house in the 1970s. While I lived there, a number of strange things happened. One morning, I heard a distinct voice. At another time, when I was unable to sleep, I heard a chair downstairs slide across the floor. Our chairs had those flat little metal things on the bottom at the legs and made a distinct scraping sound. Thinking my mother was up, as she was also a night owl / insomniac, I went downstairs to talk to her. She was in bed, asleep. The chair was pulled away from the table. On another occasion, my sister and I both heard the distinct thud of footsteps coming from the roof. We were in bed trying to sleep. Well, that was just Santa Claus. It was extremely cold, 20 below. We told ourselves it was the boards contracting, but I have my doubts. Another time, my brother was arguing with my dad when a heavy pitcher full of change exploded. I saw it. There had been no cracks or otherwise. It sat on the floor in the pantry, but out of the way of getting bumped. It was pretty crazy. I learned about the graves. Whoa. You can't, wait a minute. You can't start a sentence. I learned about the graves.
Sure, why not?
Whoa.
Jump to action.
Man, she did warn us. I learned about the graves when my dad took us on a picnic in the meadow above the house. I don't think there's a meadow floating above the house. I think it means behind or above. There's a hillside. Dad thought they were some sort of World War I training foxhole, but my history teacher said there was nothing quite like that in the area. The holes were neat and approximately square. I wonder if this person's from Europe.
Well, that's very strange.
The holes were neat and approximately square, about 6 by 3, and sunken. They were typical of dug graves you might see in a cemetery. I believe them to be the graves of the first owners, possibly dead from the fire, but that is speculation. After my parents sold it, they kept a little property and put a mobile home on it. While they were living there, a man died in his driveway of the house, crushed by a car that fell onto him at 2 a.m. in frigid weather.
Ooh.
Yikes. It was ruled accidental, but I have more questions than answers for this.
Crushed by a car.
Yeah,
That's
is...
awful.
When my sister, her husband, and I came to visit the house, the house was vacated. Everything was still inside, but it appeared that whomever had left had done so in an enormous hurry. An armful of clothes was on the back deck, thrown down and abandoned in haste. A cell phone was in the area that used to be our porch, laying on the ground next to a dog bowl full of dog food. The house was full of furniture, clothes, belongings, everything nailed shut from the inside. Evidently, they cut off the utilities by cutting them at the pole, then cutting the wires going in so people don't hijack the lines. The phone rang while we were there, and we were stunned. In the driveway, some previous inhabitants had built an open utility shed. A picture of a man with handwritten words, "We miss you, Daddy," was stapled to the beam. Okay, so this sounds insane. Okay, so it went through different hands. I'm skipping ahead a little bit. It's a long email, but this is really cool. I believe the area town to be possibly cursed. Kids die left and right. This is a small town, kind of like the fictional Bon Tom. Everyone knows anyone. That's a True Blood reference. A girl in the early 70s was beheaded while driving her snowmobile. And my 5th grade classmate was killed over the same summer along with her 5 cousins, all sisters of the same family, when their car was hit in the morning by a drunk on a sunny summer day in 1976. Another classmate who had been held back a year died in the summer before his senior year by a truck that came over the ridge on a dirt road when he was riding a dirt bike. 2 more older guys came into the road and were hit by a tractor trailer. A neighbor down the road was
Sounds
stuck.
like this place just has bad roads.
Yeah, no joke.
Low visibility.
Yeah.
Poor city planning.
Jeez, yeah, lots of a little girl was swept away by floods. A few years ago, a family was riding into to Cortland. This must be the town, in a van. A bunch of kids and 2 adults. The mechanism holding a car carrier full of crushed cars being pulled by a tractor trailer came undone, and the trailer crossed the road and crushed the people in the van, killing everyone. So this just turned into a horrific description of motor.
What's the name
accidents.
of the town?
Jeez.
Portland. It's all never go there.
So what do you think? What do you think that is? You think that it's like trapped energy?
It's a bad energy
expressing
town.
itself?
Sounds like it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's some weird
it's-
stuff go
yeah.
down there.
Yeah, I mean, I love all these
Spooky
stories
stuff, thank you.
from listeners and from everybody out there, because what they focus on is the element of strange and weird. And when you start to focus on elements like this, and you look into all the lore and all these great cases, they all contain the same element of strangeness, you know. And so, while some of these stories are just like, you know, they seem a little out there or they seem a little close to home, this is where it all starts. This is how folklore and mythology of our own society, this is where it begins.
Yeah.
So, Riley, I know you said you had a ghost story. Riley Bray is our sound engineer, and we record
You
up at
guys
his
have been
studio.
listening. You know this already. If this is your first episode,
But-
go back and listen from the beginning.
It's
But,
really
yeah.
his clubhouse, and we're just welcomed guests
Yeah.
here. But
It's about time I was sitting in the clubhouse all by myself, just waiting to talk about aliens and ghosts. And finally, you guys showed up.
I know. Here
Took
we
me long
are.
enough. I have 2 stories actually, and to listeners, yes, I actually do have a voice. I'm not just a disembodied character that they refer to for comedic purposes.
Nice voice. Have you ever thought of voiceover?
Yeah,
There
I've
you
considered it. So I've got 2, one from my childhood and one from when I was in college. So I'll start when I was a kid.
Oh wow.
It was this would be about 95, I would say, not to date myself.
Yeah.
But
You old motherfucker.
it happened.
That's the year I graduated high school. Yeah.
Anyways,
To age myself.
so my family lived out in Agoura, so it's like a northern suburb of Los Angeles. So it's kind of rural out there. We lived like on a long sort of gated off side street that was like not around a lot of other houses. So my bedroom had a window that was right above my bed, and I was asleep in bed, and then suddenly I just woke up, and I was sitting upright, and I remember looking at my clock. This was before phones, so I had like an actual digital clock with the red numbers, you know?
Yeah.
And the numbers sort of like morphed into shape, and I just remember like having this really distinct feeling of like time, like noticing the time, and then my whole room lit up super bright.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then it all just sort of receded into this white orb, like down out the window, down the street. And then it was just over, and I was just sitting in my bed, like,
Holy shit.
Riley, you got abducted, dude.
Well,
check your feet.
I need to check my toes.
Oh
I know
my
after that last
God.
episode. So I told my mom about it in the morning because I'm like a kid. In this
Yeah.
story. I told my mom about it in the morning, and she convinced me. She was like, "Oh no, it's probably like a policeman driving downstairs, and he shined his light into your window, and you just happened to see that."
Wow.
And I sort of just accepted that. I was like,
Because
"Yeah,
moms know this stuff.
That makes sense.
Wow.
That sounds good." And then, but also it was like there wouldn't have been, because it was like kind of like a rural street. Like I realized like
that
later,
doesn't
like,
explain time morphing or standing still.
right. I mean, maybe waking up from a dream, like your eyes are fuzzy.
Was your mom dating a cop?
No, she was dating my dad.
Was she also dating a cop?
She might have been. I don't know.
That, Riley, that is crazy because within your story lies so many classic elements
Right.
of a paralysis. I've never heard of like looking into a digital analog clock and watching it stop or change or shift or morph. And because what also is in there is loss of time. And
Right.
Staring at a clock while it happens is amazing.
Holy shit! This just reminded me of something. But fuck, Riley, finish your story.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what I realized later when I started getting into this stuff. Was I was like, oh, there's like a lost time thing there. It's like, oh, I'm like a kid, and then the way the room lit up and then like receded out. All these things, I was just like, wow, that is
The bright
That's really
light, the
something
bright
there.
light filling the room.
the clock thing, especially
is-
though. Like
Wait.
just waking up and
Man.
sorry, we're
You
waiting.
no, you guys are blowing my mind because when I was a kid, I was like 8th grade, maybe 8th or 9th grade, and I woke up early morning or middle of the night, like the sun wasn't up yet, and I've totally. I mean, I knew this story, but I'd forgotten to ever share it. So he said the digital clock thing, and I woke up and I saw a bright green light by my head, and my first thought was, okay, it's happening again. You know how this goes.
Wow.
Just relax,
Whoa.
chill out, and they'll eventually leave you alone. And I could feel presence around my bed, like entities, and the green light looked to emit from a like a box that had like grid lines along it, and it looked like there was like mist around, and and I remember going, I fucking totally forgot about this, and I was like, okay, you've done this before, it's fine, it'll pass, they're not going to hurt you. Thinking about like, no, and consciously being like,
Yeah.
this is the abduction scenario. And then as I stared at the green light, it slowly morphed back into the face of my green digital clock.
That is wild.
And it was like 4 something in the morning.
Whoa.
And I remember going, oh, I guess I was just staring at my
Sure.
clock. But I forgot about that until you mentioned the digital clock thing.
That's
That is
so
weird.
fucking
Yeah.
wild, man.
But you can write it off as like, oh, it's like a dream state.
You know,
Yeah.
You know what? But you can't. I did a Topanga Canyon story. I don't know if you've heard it yet, but listen. Yeah, you can write it off as sleep paralysis or midnight insomnia. But when there's other witnesses who see a craft shining a bright light into a home, which happened in Topanga Canyon, then you got to go. Wait, okay, so maybe it wasn't
Yeah.
sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
So when you hear this shit, these are recessed. I mean, I don't know. We should all go through hypnosis regression because I look up at
That'd
the
be a good
sky.
special episode.
I know. I look up at the sky like a lost dog looking for his master. I'm not kidding. Like when I'm out in the backyard, I'm just like, smoking my weed, but I'm also like looking straight up for like a lost fucking puppy, wondering, isn't that crazy? But yeah, that is.
So what's your other story, Riley?
All right. So the other story is a ghost story.
Everyone's got one.
Yeah.
Everyone's got one.
This really truly blew my mind. But so I'm in college. I went to UC Berkeley and I studied art. And so the art building there is shared with the anthropology building. And they have like the largest collection of anthropological things, including like bones and things that they like really probably shouldn't have
a place of science.
in the basement of this building. So I think it was my 3rd year. And I was doing this class that was like death and mortality in art, so we're like exploring those themes or whatever. And the teacher was like, she was cool, and she was like kind of like out there, as you would say, but maybe in there, depending on your perspective. So she was like, gave us one day, she like sat us down in the class, and she's like, okay, like I'm gonna take you guys down to the anthropology archives, and I show you some of this stuff. She's like, but before we go down there, like I want to tell you something about this building and like what is going on here. And she's like, this building is haunted. It's well documented. A lot of the professors agree. I definitely believe it. Like,
I'm sorry, which school or where is this?
It's UC Berkeley.
UC Berkeley.
It's Kroeber Hall is the building if you want to go check it out.
Cool.
So she gave us a speech. She was like, we're gonna go down there, and she tended to believe that there were some malevolent spirits haunting it. It was I guess that was her opinion on that. It was not a friendly
Not friendly ghost,
It was
sure.
angry that it's like maybe it was
Crusper, the unfriendly ghost.
Yeah.
Casper's lesser known Casper.
Fuck you, Casper.
So anyways, she's like, so she prefaces with this whole thing about the building being haunted. She's like, okay, we're gonna go down there now. So then we go, and there's this elevator, and like everyone starts getting into the elevator, and then the elevator's full. So the last couple of us, myself included, we took the stairs, and so we go down the stairs, and as this elevator is coming down, I'm now in the basement at this point. Everything goes black. And the whole building, we would later find out, completely just shut down. And a bunch of these people are in this elevator.
My nightmare.
So they're just in there. It's pitch black. She's in there.
My dream.
She's in there with them. And it's just pitch black for maybe 20, 30 seconds, which is a long fucking time when you have just been told you're going into a haunted basement. And the lights go out. Not to mention the rest of the people that were trapped in the elevator with her. And then the power just sort of comes back on, and the elevator comes down, it opens, and she just sort of like, yep, see, I mean, that's what I was talking about. So we looked into it afterwards, and only that building had lost power.
Whoa.
There was not a power outage around the school or anything like that, but that building just happened to go dark for about 30 seconds while we were going down.
I thought you were going to say the elevator door was going to open up and the ghost was going to be standing right there and saying, hey, guys.
Hey, how you doing?
University of Missouri, Kansas City, near where Dave and I are from, they have a haunted... Dave, you know about
a
it.
big haunted old mansion.
On their campus.
The campus built up around the mansion. It was like called Epperson's Folly or something. It took forever to build, had tons of builders. It was like the biggest mansion in town at the time. And there's all these legends about it and stories. And I guess in the 70s, I shot a movie there, and it has a picture on the wall, just like the picture of The Shining, where Jack Nicholson's in the where the big band's behind him and all the party scene picture. It has one of those pictures up, and this
Jack Nicholson's
in the picture. No. But you can see where it was in its heyday. It was like a really big music hall, or just, a lot of people were there. And then you go into it now, and it's run down. And but there's some great haunting stories about it.
My buddy Donovan just said, it's funny you mentioned The Shining. He's like, if you guys ever want to do a show on the road and have interest in a trip to Denver, maybe visit the Stanley Hotel where they filmed The Shining. I'd be happy to help you out with anything. Loan a car, drive you, of course, give you a place to stay, whatever. But
that would be
a trippy, right?
I think we got time for one more email.
Yeah.
This is a short one.
God, my mind, I was not expecting that, Riley Bray.
Dude.
And Mike, you did like, what the fuck is happening, man? That is just like, I want to delve into your story and yours too, because that's just, I mean, the high strangeness there is off the charts.
This is what this dumb podcast is doing to me. It's it's digging up all this stuff that I kind of forgot about.
Me too.
And I'm like, oh boy.
But it's a journey.
Did I ever tell you that story, Dave?
Probably.
Yeah.
It's a journey we all need to take.
Yeah,
and let me tell you something, because most of our guests have been like, oh, I've got nothing. And then they do.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, sometimes you're walking by a garage sale and you see the devil hanging out.
This is a strange earth we're living on.
Okay. This one is called WTF. And this is from Denise in Parkville, Missouri. And this is actually a friend of my sister's family. Shout out, Denise. We've met before. She's into this stuff. So she's been listening to the show, and it's really cool.
Thank you guys for sending us your stories and listening.
Okay, so let's see. Where do I start? It was December of 1992. My parents' old farmhouse, which has a cemetery 100 feet from the front door called the Wells Cemetery. The old farmhouse is nestled around a very large limestone hill, which on the top of the hill is our horse barn. The property is rich with Civil War history, and a few skirmishes have been fought there. Also, Little Blue River runs along by the property. All is said, this farmstead was the perfect recipe for paranormal activity, and it had its share of maximum creep factor. Love that. It's got some heavy MCF. Growing up, I have seen my share of shadow figures, music boxes playing by themselves, doors open and close, as well as doorknobs. I assume she means opening, turning. This is just a sample of what was going on, what went on growing up in the house. You also always had a sense of being watched. Now, the summer of 1992 was different. I no longer lived at home, but that summer I decided to stay overnight since I was by myself at my apartment that weekend. I thought my parents could use the company and it would be fun. We stayed up sitting on the porch, talking while listening to the summer sounds of the night. Mom made me a pallet on the couch in the living room, and I was all set for my overnight stay. It was nice to be back at my parents' house, and it was nicer to not be in my old room that was part of the original old structure of the house that had a ton of paranormal activity. As I drifted off to sleep, I was awakened by tiny whispers going, shh, 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 shh. The sound was very close to my face, surrounding the right side of the couch that I was sleeping on. I didn't startle, but I opened my eyes to the sight of 10 2 feet tall, tan, flesh-colored, naked, bald, sexless beings. Whoa! Wait a minute, Denise. What the fuck? You weren't kidding. I did not know where the description of that was going to end. I could not see the period at the end of that sentence.
I love words, and there's so many of them packed in that sentence.
Hold on. I'm going to back it up.
Back that ass up.
I opened... Denise, we're not making fun of you. This is insane.
No.
I opened my eyes to the sight of 10 2 feet tall, tan, flesh-colored, naked, bald, sexless beings.
Wow.
So
so
Smurfs, but
Tan.
naked and tan.
This is
and
like
bald.
the alien gray kind of, but they were flesh-colored.
Wow.
Whew. I startled them because after 15 seconds of seeing them, these beings disappeared.
Oh my God.
I have no clue who or what they were or where they went.
Wow.
I didn't say goodbye to my sweet parents when I left in my Honda in the middle of the night back to my apartment in the Northland. In other words, I did the curly shuffle. Oh, that's pretty great. I know I couldn't have dreamed this because I was fully awake when I saw them, and I had not been asleep that long. Over the years, I have not encountered these beings from what I suspected are from the underworld, also known as fairies or some sort of astral alien beings.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Denise, pause. Because this is similar to, I think, the entity that I saw outside my window that my dogs woke me to. Also, next month, actually next week, we're going to have a story of the Dover Demon. And I
great.
think this ties into this phenomenon as much as it seems
Shadow
like...
creatures.
These this tan
Fairies,
flesh...
elves, gnomes.
Yeah.
Little people.
A little more, they seem to fall into the category more of the fairy realm than they do spacemen.
Yes. Now, and don't be put...
And that's how I felt about the being that I saw and my dog saw last July a couple years ago.
Wow.
What were we going to say?
Nothing. Keep going.
Okay, she says, I probably will never know what I saw that night. All I can say is my parents' house is some sort of astral paranormal portal. This portal is a connection to many astral beings and spirits. They are drawn to it like a beacon. Could the river... are drawn to it like a beacon. Could the river, the sustained sorrow, history, and limestone have anything to do with it? Probably. Life is mysterious, and I don't claim to know everything or believe that we are the only intelligent beings out there. That would be absurd. Thank you, Mystic Mom, Denise.
Agreed. Thank you,
Cool.
Denise. That was awesome.
Whoa.
What word did she use on the astral? She called it what? She thought the place was an astral portal of...
She said some sort of astral paranormal portal.
well put.
Just like Skinwalker Ranch.
Yep. Which is a place in reality that space entrepreneur Bob Bigelow runs, and they are doing some amazing research into paranormal phenomena
Man,
out there.
So great. Guys, this
What
is great.
an episode. Holy
Cool, thank you. Keep
moly.
sending in your emails. If we didn't read yours today, we will probably get to it in a future episode.
Yeah.
But send them. We're going to do these periodically. It's BigfootCollectorsClub at gmail.com. You're on blast. You got to do it. Guys, you can find us always at Bigfoot Collectors Club on Gmail, at Bigfoot_C Club on Twitter. And, of course, find us on our Facebook page, Bigfoot Collectors Club. Dave, Keith, it was so great to have you in the studio this
agreed.
week.
Thanks for having me.
Where can people find your movies? I know you said VHS, but Dave's a bit of an outlier filmmaker in Kansas City. So
And film faker.
I know.
you have stuff up on YouTube.
Yeah,
Vimeo?
it's on YouTube, Vimeo. Been doing a lot of music videos lately for Sun Eaters, the band that does the theme for Bigfoot Collectors
See,
Club.
it's all connected.
Check
guys.
that out for
So,
sure.
Lickety Split Films. Do you still go by? Do you
Yeah,
guys still have that?
yeah.
So if they Google
LS Films.
Okay.
Lotus Pool Productions.
great,
Yep.
cool. You can find it out there. Great.
Wow.
You can find me at McMills on all the social media. Bryce, Mr. Bryce Johnson.
Hey, this one's to the fans, man. It's within your story that we might help to figure out a little bit of all what's taking place here. So thank you.
And Riley, where can people find you?
You can find me at trashbag hashtag, but it's only photos of garbage.
Great.
Nice.
Love it.
Awesome.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. And we will see you in the new year. Next week, we kick off our Crazy Ex-Girlfriend month. All guests through the month of January will be castmates of mine from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. It's going to be really, really fun.
Yep.
We've already recorded most of these episodes.
They're
and we
incredible.
got some good shit for you
Yep.
guys coming up. So thanks a lot. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful new year. Happy holidays. And we'll see you in 2018.
No doubt about it.
Happy New Year.
Woo!